from the Wiley Vision studio in Spokane, Washington. The Stephen James Wiley Show.
Hi ho, how are you today? It's the Stephen James Wiley Show. I'm your host, and we got a part 2 with Justin Sabestinas. We're going to be talking about books, our book lists of 2024, what we watched and or listened to, because listening on Audible counts. And if you think it doesn't, you got another thing coming, buddy. That's what I think. Man, I just read something. I want to go on a rabbit trail, and I'm just debating. We should just jump into my talk. Scientists are trying to bring back the woolly mammoth. Like, it's a thing. And I think I've read this before. I've heard it, but I've heard it in passing. Like, oh, okay, whatever. They're really doing it. Like, they haven't done it. But it's this article. It's in the telegraph.co.uk. Which, British tabloids are the worst. Kind of like New York Post. Like, they might have real news stories in them, but man, are they just gross to be on. They're so messy and ads and whatnot. Anyhow, this guy, Ben Lamb, he has a startup called Colossal Biosciences. That sounds right. And he's raised an obscene amount of money, you guys. He's raised $435 million, and it gives his company a valuation of $10.2 billion. Don't ask me how. What the hell's a woolly mammoth worth, right? I don't know. What are they going to do with it? I mean, how do they make money? I don't know. But Peter Jackson from Lord of the Rings, who directed Lord of the Rings, he's an investor. Paris Hilton's an investor. It's also attracted cash from InQtel, in-q-tel, a venture fund backed by the CIA. There's a venture fund backed by the CIA. I don't even know what to do with that. The Central Intelligence Agency has a venture capital fund. And we are just like, yeah, sure, of course. I was going to send them my proposal. And the U.S. Innovative Technology, a defense-focused fund led by billionaire Thomas Tull. He's and he's also the guy who founded the production company behind The Dark Knight. So he knows old Christopher Lloyd. Not Christopher Lloyd. Chris Nolan. So they want to bring back the woolly mammoth. They have this thing. In 2015, this guy, George Church. You guys, this is so weird. This whole thing is so weird. George Church, he looks like the bearded guy from the Jurassic Park movie. I mean, this is Jurassic Park. They're just not bringing back something yet that wants to kill everybody. But Church conducted in 2015. He's working with this company. He's a Harvard guy, of course. He conducted the first genetic splicing of frozen mammoth DNA in 2015 onto elephant genes using a cutting-edge gene editing technique known as CRISPR. CRISPR. However, he also gained, this is where it gets weird, he also gained prominence for his past association with Jeffrey Epstein, who he maintained contact with even after he was convicted of sex offenses in 2008. The professor, who also accepted donations from Epstein, issued an apology in 2019, of course, and said he had suffered from nerd tunnel vision. apparently because Epstein gave him money and that made his dreams come true. I don't know. There's, it's not like he went to the island with all the, Anyhow, this Lamb guy is connected with this guy, and now they're doing the whole thing. And this has been done, apparently successfully. It's been done once before, in 2003. There's so much to talk about on this thing. I'm not going to do it now. And it freaks me out. And just the mix of people involved in this is bizarre to me. But this guy, he's hot on it. And the Epstein buddy, who's the scientist, it's nuts, you guys. They're gonna probably before I'm dead, there's gonna be some park with woolly mammoths running around. Hopefully not eating children. I don't know. Were they carnivores? I don't know. Well, what we have today, though, is a continued conversation with Justin Sabestinas. I apologize for that rabbit trail, but it's interesting. Go read the article. Go Google it. Look it up. It's nuts and interesting. You might be a fan of it. You might be stoked. But whatever you are, I hope it was thoughtful to have that brought to your attention, because I'm probably going to do a deeper dive once I get off of this little production session. So today, Justin Sabestinas, we're going to talk about books and have a grand old time, as we always do. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to have an awesome conversation. I hope you enjoy it. I love you. Thank you for being a listener to my show. Be sure to jump over to Substack and subscribe so I can keep you in the loop on what's going on. If you want to be a paid subscriber at $5 a month, you will be blessed beyond measure. You become a citizen of Wileyville. You'll get access to our clothing optional hot springs at the base of Mount Wiley. It's a beautiful setting. The weather's always good. Yeah, give it some thought. We're going to take a break. Be right back.
American Septic, proudly serving Phoenix, Arizona and surrounding areas since 1953. At American, we can pump, clean and repair your current septic system with ease. Or we can design and install a brand new state-of-the-art system. No matter the problem, our crackerjack crew of expert technicians have got you covered. Every Jack, Jill, and Diane gets a thrill when they hear the American pump truck coming up the road. American Septic. Find us on the World Wide Web at americanseptic.com. That's americanseptic.com.
And now, today's featured guest.
All right, and we are back again with Justin Sabestinas, because we also want to review our books read or listened to in the year 2024. Now, clearly these books may not be new in 2024, but they are what we read or listened to. There will be far less than we watched, because that's how books work.
Yes.
But I'm excited to review this. This whole review process has been wonderful. So I will let you kick off as my guest.
Yes, and actually, what you said wasn't true for me this year. I think I consumed more books this year.
Really?
Than movies.
That's amazing.
Because of Audible. I definitely read some, but this year I was driving my kids to and from school. I was cooking a lot of meals, doing a lot of dishes. And so Audible was just my lifesaver.
Wow.
And I think I listened to 25 books.
Dang, dude.
Including like the complete works of the complete Sherlock Holmes.
Holy cow.
By Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
How many books is that?
Dozens. They're not long. They're stories,
Okay.
They're short stories. But Yeah. So I broke my list up into fiction and nonfiction.
Wonderful.
Um, should I tackle half my list and then you go, or?
I think, sure, let's feel it out.
All right, I'll start with nonfiction.
Love it.
How about that? Top five. I'll just go top to bottom. These aren't really in an order of hierarchy. Just these are five of the best that I read this year. Um, Number one, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's a title I had heard a lot about over time. I knew a lot about Frankl and his story of being in the concentration camps. He was a doctor and he was a psychologist, and he was charged with treating with other inmates in the concentration camps and helping them. And through that, he learned a lot and wrote down everything he learned about basically the human spirit and psyche and surviving horrible situations like that. Incredible book. Everybody should read it. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Number two, this is kind of a 2-for-1 or even a 3-for-1. Andy Squires is a musician, a Christian musician, but he doesn't really do like worship music. He does more like soul searching, like real music from a perspective of faith. And on social media, he does these posts that are kind of poetic prose, and he compiles them into these collections with just quirky photographs called Poet Priest.
Okay.
And he has 3 volumes. I'm currently on volume 3. I read volume 1 and 2 over the past year. Really great, especially if you're a person of faith and you're looking for something that's just a little more real, that deals with, the uglier parts of faith and, emotion and life and all of it. He doesn't flinch away from any of it, but provides lots of beauty and hope in the midst of all of it too.
I like his stuff. That's great.
Really good. Number 3, Zen in the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. I keep coming back to this book over and over again. It's a collection of Ray Bradbury's essays about the craft of writing and how he got into it, how he got started, his approach to it. It actually helped me change my perspective on writing, which, if you're a listener and haven't heard me on Steve's previous, I am currently a screenwriter. I also do some writing coaching. I'm fascinated with the craft of writing. I went to school for creative writing at Eastern Washington University, got a minor in screenwriting. And a lot of what you learn as a writer is that it sucks to write, that it's really hard, that it's torture to sit in the chair, and why do we abuse ourselves like this? But Ray Bradbury gave me a whole new perspective on that.
Cool.
Where he talks about, in one of the early chapters of this book, the joy of writing and the fact that it should be full of passion. That when you come to the typewriter, which is what he had at the time, he always comes either with love or with anger, basically. So that the writing is full of passion. And it is really good. I keep learning more and more from it. So,
And this was on Audible?
I think I got this one either on Audible or from the library, but now I have the hard copy of the book.
Okay.
And I've been rereading it. It's just that good.
The Zen in the Art of Writing.
Yes,
Bingo.
Zen in the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury.
Okay, I'm just pulling it up here. Good deal.
All
right.
Number 4, Dialogue by Robert McKee. He is basically the master of all things when it comes to story. He wrote a book called Story, another one called Character. Story was like our handbook for our screenwriting courses in college. He breaks down movies especially and what makes stories tick, every type of story. He has such a broad and deep understanding of story. It seems like he's read and seen everything. And he approaches these books not just for any one format. He does movies and stage plays. He even tackles video games in his book on action and books. So he does it all. So dialogue was just the most helpful to me in terms of elevating an aspect of writing that I think everybody connects with, which is the dialogue.
Absolutely.
Great book. So if you're a writer, get it. Number 5, this is an older one that I finally picked up and read, Atomic Hammocks. That's what I must be tired.
Fascinating.
Atomic Hammocks. Atomic Habits.
Yes.
By James Clear.
Okay.
Which I think everybody's read this book. I don't need to say much about it, but really good. Really helped me with my writing rhythm and getting stuff done.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So
That's
those are
my
your top-
nonfiction.
Okay, I like it. Do you have any runners-up that you thought, man, this is, or an honorable mention?
I kind of snuck him in with McKee there, talking
Okay.
about some of his other ones.
So you kind of found some authors that you honed in on.
Yeah,
I like it.
I would say so. Mm-hmm.
Sweet. All right. Well, here I'll jump in on mine. Top 5. This is a mix because all of mine are nonfiction. And this is not in any particular order, but apropos of nothing, Woody Allen. I just finished that. I loved that book. That I am so far from Woody Allen's life, and he's lived quite a life, and he's endured some pretty intense mudslinging his direction, and to hear him tell his life story, and he reads the whole thing, and it's lovely. He gives a very riveting and passionate account of his life, his life's decisions, his belief systems, and you don't leave thinking, oh, this guy's a lunatic. You just think, oh, okay, interesting. And you end up thinking that his ex-wife, doggone it, Farrah Fawcett, yes, is a lunatic. God be with her heart. Very fascinating lady, and but he was asking for it, and he seems to own it. He's just like, I brought this on myself. It is what it is, and he's very good at owning whatever shit show came his way. He doesn't put anything on anybody, and maybe that's a Jewish thing. I don't know. I love the Jews. They seem to take everything in stride, but I loved that book. And then I went into an Eastern vibe, and I read or listened to, most of these are listened to, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda and Living with Himalayan Masters, Swami Rama. Love those books deeply. I will probably listen to Autobiography of a Yogi every year just because Ben Kingsley reads it, and he could he could read me, my labs from the doctor, and I would see the face of God. It's just gorgeous. Another one, those are 2 there. Where's My Happy Days in Hollywood, Gary Marshall. Absolutely wonderful. He reads the whole thing. He did Happy Days, the TV show. He did Laverne and Shirley. He did the Princess Diary movies. Lots of romantic comedies. He had a few real bad stinker movies that didn't do well that it's fun to hear him talk about. Loved that. And I'm still listening to James Burrows, directed by James Burrows, and he reads it. It's funny when you hear guys read their own book and they're older dudes, and you hear their energy start to wane toward the end of a chapter, and then they come back and it's like, oh, this was a different day.
Yes.
And number 5 would probably be The Boys, Ron Howard and Clint Howard, talking about growing up in Hollywood. Really, it's a very honorable story toward their parents, who were really remarkable people, and then talking about their careers and really divergent careers and personalities. They're such different guys, and they each read their portions, so it's really awesome. I would give honorable mention to Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be, Stephen
Yes,
Pressfield.
We both read that one this year.
Yes, you told me about it, and I've listened to that on Audible twice in the last 9 months because it sounds challenging, and it is challenging, and it's a come to Jesus meeting.
His voice, man.
Oh, dude.
Him reading his books is the best.
Yes, you catch his fire. I think his house burned down.
No.
I believe so.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
Yeah, sucks. And then there's a few others. I usually always have a Ryan Holiday book going on. I'm reading finished Courage is Calling, starting. You're reading one of his, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which
Discipline
one?
is Destiny.
Discipline is Destiny.
You
And
just
I'm going to start
gave
that
me a hard copy of
Yes.
it. I had started the ebook, and you hand me a signed hard copy. I was like, this is way better.
I kept the signed one.
Oh, you kept the signed one.
And you got
So you're giving me the other one.
the other
I'm
one.
still thrilled. I misunderstood.
It's all right. Well, that is and there's a few others. I haven't finished Cinema Speculation, Tarantino's book, but man, is it lovely. And if anybody's a screenwriter, obviously it's a little niche, but Adventures in the Screen Trade, William Goldman, such fun stuff to read. So that is my list. I would love to hear your fiction list. I never read fiction or listen to it. So I
love fiction so much. I'm going to add one. You asked for honorable mentions for nonfiction. I realized, and I need to put this in there because I never read new releases, ever.
Yeah.
And this is a rare exception. Malcolm Gladwell's Revenge of the Tipping Point. He wrote The Tipping Point 20 years ago. It was a phenomenal book about trends, and he revisited that in the audiobook. He reads it himself, and it was a fun listen. It was like listening to This American Life or something like that. So
sweet.
That was a good one. Okay, for fiction, again, these are not really in order of top to bottom, just 5 of my favorites. A Man at Arms by Stephen Pressfield.
Okay.
You and I, we both probably read a lot of Pressfield's books about, working hard and the craft of writing and being an artist, being creative. And I was like, I got to start reading his actual stuff that he wrote. And I want to know, am I listening to sound advice from someone who knows what they're doing? Oh my gosh. Killing Rommel was the first of his that I read, which was a fiction book about the desert campaign of World War II. And trying to kill General Rommel from the Germans. That was a great one. And then this was the next one of his fiction books, A Man at Arms. Really excellent tale woven together. Long, but you love that it's long. You kind of don't want it to end. Interesting characters, interesting time period, set during New Testament times.
Wow.
In Rome. So
cool.
Great book. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. He's the guy that did The Martian.
Okay.
And this is kind of his next big book, I would say, in a similar vein of, sci-fi, but this one's a little less realistic. It could be, but interesting. It was a great audiobook because of the way I'm interested to see what the book looks like because of some things that the way they depicted audibly. I'm like, how do you write that down? And I'm sure people reading it were like, how do you depict that in audio? So that was a fun read, fun listen. Number 3 was The Dubliners by James Joyce, which is a collection of short stories by Joyce. And I was reading this while in Dublin and in Ireland. And so it just, had that immediacy to me. It was a really fun experience.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I wrote a short story inspired by it and by something that happened in Dublin where a junkie stepped off the curb in front of my car and I hit him and he ran away and I had to spend half a day at a police station. So I wrote kind of a Joycean Dubliners.
It.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I might submit that somewhere.
You should.
Dubliners by James Joyce. Good one. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. One that without an audiobook, I don't think I ever would have made it through a book like this. And I can't even tell you why I liked it, but Dostoevsky, he definitely just speaks to the soul and to the human experience in such a deep way. It was really good.
Really?
Yeah. It's a character who, the main character whose consciousness you're in for the whole book. He's a terrible, terrible, terrible person. And you kind of move on this spectrum from like sympathizing with him and then hating him and then sympathizing with him again. And then at the end kind of feeling like, oh, he's just another human and I'm just another human. And really interesting read.
But it's compelling enough for you to finish it.
In an audiobook format, yes.
Okay.
Definitely. It was well read. I can't remember the name of the actor who read it, but it was a good presentation of it.
That helps.
And then I already mentioned the complete works of Sherlock Holmes. Really fun. Just great to get. They become a little repetitive in their format after writing that many short stories. And I'm sure Doyle was just giving the people what they want again and again. Another mystery that was solved in a brilliant way. But it some of the stories dove into things that I never realized Doyle dealt with, such as the Mormons in America, and because that was on the rise during that time, and then dealing with the Ku Klux Klan, and all three of these he kind of deals with in a similar way. He treats them all as like gangs and controlling entities in America that were kind of shaping our culture toward the negative.
Wow.
And then the third one was the Masons, the Freemasons.
And where was he located to experience all these?
That's what I'm curious about. Is I don't know what from Doyle's story. These were characters coming from America to London that Sherlock Holmes would interact with and get their stories.
Because was Doyle in England?
Yeah.
So he wasn't in the United States to be...
No.
So he was... It's just interesting to think, where was he pulling this information from?
Yeah, and it gives you a very British perspective on things in our American culture that we probably have a very different perspective on.
Oh, yeah.
But just
Very
fascinating
cool.
to hear how that translated across the pond.
Oh, yeah. How long is a typical short story of Doyle's?
I mean, in the reading of it from Audible, anywhere from like the longer ones, probably 45 minutes, shorter ones, 10 or 15 minutes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And just
To have read to
a
you.
whole bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's making dinner right there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm just going to rapid fire because I'm really proud of all that I listened to and read this year.
Should be.
So a whole bunch of other ones. American Gods by Neil Gaiman, who has all kinds of accusations coming out against him now, kind of crazy, but was a very interesting look at, kind of an American mythology. I listened to the first 2 Game of Thrones books. I don't think I'm going to continue them. They didn't pull me in enough to keep going.
Okay.
But
Did you watch the show?
No, never watched the show.
I haven't either.
So, and I'm not interested to after this. So, which surprised me because I like fantasy. I listened to the Lord of the Rings trilogy read by Andy Serkis. If you like that trilogy, get that audiobook. It's such a great way. He's the guy who does Gollum in the movies.
That's really good.
Oh, he's amazing. It's just
I didn't know that.
wonderfully performed. I'm skipping all the nonfiction. Oh, some poetry. Musical Tables by Billy Collins. 100 Poems by Seamus Heaney. Collected Poems by Dylan Thomas. Love poetry this year. Yeah. Lots of books that I read. So, it was a good year.
And you, well, thank you for sharing. What a lovely and
Thank you.
thorough list. And that makes me want to ask you, because I've wanted to ask you anyway, outside of microphones, you did read a lot of poetry this year.
Yes.
And I don't know people who read a lot of poetry. I feel like it's something that its value has been lost in culture. And maybe that's been for quite some time. But what inspired that for you? Because I know you're writing some as well.
Yes. I have always been drawn to and loved poetry, but never took it real seriously, because I don't think we live in a time that takes it real seriously.
No.
Billy Collins, I encountered him, 20, 25 years ago, and he started to change my mind in terms of what it could be. He was the poet laureate at the time, and he has very, what I would call, accessible poetry. Feels like everyday life, but just a little elevated on the page. Sometimes goes a little deeper. But actually, I can tell you exactly why. Here's a quote from Ray Bradbury's Zen in the Art of Writing. He says this: "Read poetry every day of your life. Poetry is good because it flexes muscles you don't use often enough. Poetry expands the senses and keeps them in prime condition. It keeps you aware of your nose, your eye, your ear, your tongue, your hand. And above all, poetry is compacted metaphor or simile. Such metaphors, like Japanese paper flowers, may expand outward into gigantic shapes. Ideas lie everywhere through the poetry books, yet how rarely have I heard short story teachers recommending them for browsing."
Nice.
It is, in some ways, reading poetry for me is like taking my vitamins. It sometimes I enjoy it. Sometimes I love the flavor of it, the sound of it, the experience of it, and I connect with it right away. But probably more often than not, I feel a little lost and almost dumb. It's like, I didn't get that. Okay. But I never regret it. I feel like after that, in terms of like, then when I go to do my own writing, it's just put me in a different frame of mind. It's given me a new way to think about language and how words can hit you and get you to think or remember or experience certain things. And I like writing poetry for that same reason. I just, I can only do it. Everything else I do, I type. But poetry, I can't type poetry. I have to have a pen and paper. And it just unfolds on the page in a whole different way than a story does. Because a story, it feels like I'm sitting there really thinking and strategizing how the reader is going to experience this. Whereas poetry, I'm asking, how am I experiencing whatever I'm experiencing right now in life? Whether it's because I'm looking at something and it's making me respond, or if it's just something that I dreamt about or something deep down inside and I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
It just comes out on the page.
It's almost a bit of catharsis.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's not for commercial consumption.
No, not at all.
There's no end of maybe this will be something important. It's for you and whoever finds it beautiful.
Yeah. So I've started putting poetry on my blog. There's 2 posts up there. I have some more planned and mapped out. It's my first time really showing it to anybody in the world.
Nice.
But I decided I just wanted to have a more... That's another thing I like about it, is anything else I write, it's just a whole long process. That's anywhere from weeks to months to years to get it from inside me to where somebody's connecting with it.
Yeah.
Whereas a poem, I can think of it in the morning and feel good enough about it that I'll show it to the world in the afternoon, because it's just a little, gumdrop of like, yeah, maybe this connects with 2 people out there. That's great. If it doesn't connect with anybody else, now you know a little bit more of my quirkiness, Short stories could probably do the same, but and that's something I'd like to get into more, is just short form fiction. But poetry is a good starting point.
Well, when you're screenwriting, there's a good chance nobody's ever going to see it.
Oh, absolutely.
Or the only eyes that do see it won't be friendly.
No.
And so to be able to share something that might be beautiful or at the very least beautiful, and even better, useful, that's amazing. And that's even the power of the short story. I need to do more of that. I have such a utilitarian brain. It's a very Western brain. We all have it, and to whatever degree. And I think the Europeans probably less so. Americans, we're hyper productivity. Like everything I think of, even beautiful things, is like I can't make a living doing that. And that's pretty, it's not great.
No, it's not. You reminded me. So I do a exercise off and on, but lately I've been way more consistent with it. It's morning pages, where in the morning, as I get started, usually my routine is, I pray, I read some scripture, and then I love to read some poetry. Sometimes I'll write a poem, and then I'll get my laptop out, and I'll try to type about 3 pages worth of just whatever. Try to do it in 10 or 15 minutes. And what you were saying reminded me of something that came out in my daily pages yesterday. And this is rare. Usually my daily pages are just pure, like, here's what's on my to-do list today. I'm so tired. I don't know what to write. I have writer's block. This sucks. That's usually what my daily pages are. I'm going to read some. Actually, this is this morning's daily pages. Let me see. I'm really enjoying the coffee this morning. I'm enjoying making it. I took my time making it. You can take more time to drink a coffee than you do to consume it. I didn't, but if it were an espresso or a macchiato, yeah, probably. There are a lot of attractive things about being part of a more sensory-oriented society, like Italy or France. The experience of a thing is valued above the time you spend on it. Time is money? No, time is life. And I've just been thinking about that a lot lately.
Yeah.
I was like, we think of time as money, time as productivity, but that's such a sucky way to see things.
It's brutal.
Time is life. Like the time you're the thing you're rushing through right now is your life.
Right.
And you're not experiencing or enjoying it
Yes.
at all. In fact, I went ahead and went on. We were talking earlier about how David Lynch passed away yesterday. And I haven't actually watched much of his work. I started Twin Peaks. I would like to finish it. And this is all from my daily pages. From all the quotes and snippets of interviews people are posting, he seemed a man bent on having a good time, of enjoying the time given to create and not rushing it. In fact, the only time I saw him really angry in a clip was he was going on and on about how the studios rush him and say, you only have 2 days. And he's like, what? How are you supposed to be creative in an environment like that where you only have 2 days? I could take a week on this. And what could we discover if we stopped rushing it and just enjoyed the process?
Yeah.
So
I love that. Man. And the problem is when you're paying your bills and you got a family and you feel all the pressures of real life, it's so easy to lose the romance and the enjoyment of everything. Becomes a box to check off. And I don't want that.
no.
I mean, there's some necessity to checking some boxes, but the rest shouldn't be checking boxes. It should be more enjoying the experience.
Most definitely.
Hot damn. That's what you get to take home today, gentle listener, beautiful people. I love you. We love you. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been beneficial to your mind, spirit, and maybe inspiring, giving you something to read or listen to on Audible. Is listening to a book reading it? I say yes.
I saw a great post on this. If we consider listening to a book cheating, then we do a disservice to the thousands of years of oral tradition that our ancestors used for storytelling.
Bingo. I love it. I love it. I'm sticking with it. Alrighty. Thank you, brother. We'll have you back soon.